Good morning. Elle Ingalls here, pressure-free.com. It is a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A little chilly, but I'm outside on my balcony in the treehouse. I live in my dream house. Do you live in your dream house? I live in my dream house. I mean, not a day goes by that I don't share with my husband how happy I am to live here. I love it so much. And I never thought living in a condo would be my thing. But I absolutely love it. And I love the nature center and the trees and the birds. Today, the topic is know-it-all syndrome. And I have a friend. She is a brilliant friend, an MIT grad, who was giving a talk that I was attending. And she asked us, she said, how many of you are know-it-alls? And she goes, I'm asking you that because I'm one and I attract them. And I just thought that was an amazing way to start her lecture with us. Know-it-all syndrome kind of looks like this. You attend a conference, you start hearing a speaker, whether it's online, in person, or you're reading an article, you're getting some kind of information. And in your head, you go, oh, I already know this. And you kind of shut down and aren't particularly open to learning and listening and really going all in to take in the information from the person who is sharing with you. And when my friend shared this in her lecture, it brought me back to when I was a grad student in conducting at the University of Michigan, with a very famous, amazing teacher, Gustav Meyer. And there was an incident in our seminar where we had a very famous guest conductor come in, and he had a very unusual way of conducting, very unusual technique. And some people kind of shut down and stopped paying attention in the seminar. And after this guest left, we had our next class. Our professor really laid into us. And I'll never forget his words. He says, you need to stay open. You never know when the information you're learning is going to come into play in your future. And he referred the technique. He said, this technique could work perfectly in a situation for you. So if you're not open to learning, open to observing, then you're going to miss out. So those two things really solidified for me the importance of staying open when someone is sharing with you. Maybe you're not going to take their advice, or maybe you're not going to follow through on what you're learning, but staying open allows you to take in the information in case it can come up later on in your life is a very important thing that you do need. So I really encourage you to move into beginner's mind, to be open. I'm throwing another conference, and so I'd love for you to attend. You can either attend live, or I record it all so I can send it to you, and I'll drop the link down below. Next week, or actually starting on Saturday, I'm going to do 7 days of my morning show, but it's going to be a deep dive. And I'll send you a link to that so you can actually come on Zoom with me instead, so you can ask questions and we can be more interactive in that particular set. So this will be 7 days, a deep dive series with me. And so in both of those, like, I'm going to have all these great guest speakers on my conference. And I was sharing this in a post, I think I did it on LinkedIn, where there's two things I do when I attend something like this. One is to stay open. And the other is that for every speaker that comes on when I'm at a conference or a virtual conference, I'm seeking for the one big takeaway, the one thing from each person. I'm open to learning it all, of course, but I'm really open to focusing on one big takeaway that I commit to implementing or going deeper on or learning more about. And so I encourage you to do that. Like, see if you can have a takeaway, because a lot of times we just kind of half listen and we're not all in, and we do these things, and then even a few hours later we barely remember anything. In fact, I was speaking at a big conference once. I was a breakout speaker, which means that like after the big speaker, the keynote who's at lunch, I was a smaller session afterwards. I had about 200 people in my session, and I'm working with this group, and I like to refer to the speaker before me to bring context in if I can, if I can work it in. And my friend who was the keynote speaker, he dropped some really great stuff. And so I was about to do that connection, and I stopped and I said, wait a minute, I'm curious. Because here was my friend talking to, I don't know, about 1,000 people in this conference. And he had a slide up with his name really big. He was introduced with his name. He said his name several times, a few times during his talk. And so I was curious, did anyone who was all just in that room, now I have 200 of them in my room, do they remember his name, the speaker's name? So I asked them. And no one did. Not a single hand went up. No one could remember my friend's name. His name was Chris Mathis, by the way. He's a speaker from Grand Rapids, great speaker. And no one could remember his name. So that really got me thinking, how much are people really taking in and listening and paying attention when it's written and it's spoken? And the main reason why people can't is fight or flight. When you go to a conference, even when you log in to come onto a virtual conference, it's super easy to be a little nervous. Oh, is the tech gonna work? Am I gonna be on time? Like, it's really easy to trigger the fight or flight stress response. And if you're actually attending something, there are little social anxieties, little anxieties that can cause you to trigger the stress response, feeling like you're gonna be late, or traffic on the highway, any of those things. And so we enter these rooms and we're not fully present, and we're not cognitively fully engaged, which is why we don't remember a whole lot, and why it's hard to remember people's names if you get introduced. You're not stupid. You have a brilliant brain. It's just that when you're under the influence of stress hormones, it's not working very well. So if you come to my conference, I encourage you to stay super pressure-free before you come in, so they can really take in this information from some really great speakers. And then on our deep dives next week, when you get up in the morning, watch for those early morning triggers. Use your pressure-free tools. And if you haven't worked with me, we need to get together. You need to learn this. It's so life-changing to really dive into pressure-free. And you need to invest in yourself. You're worth it. You're so worth it to come on board with me and learn this method, so that when you walk into any situation, you're taking in information, you're learning, you're not wasting time. We waste so much time because we're not fully present. And you hear all the time, you need to be more mindful, more present. How do we do it though? The fastest way is to not trigger the stress response, because then your brain is working for you, not against you. Do you sometimes feel like your brain is broken, like it's just not working for you? You forget too much, you lose your keys, there's just some stuff going on. You feel like you could be much more productive or have more willpower to stay on a diet or exercise or whatever it is you're trying to do. It's not your fault. It's really not your fault. It's the fault of these stress hormones. I had no idea of all of the side effects of adrenaline, the side effects of glucocorticoids. It's the side effects of these stress hormones that really mess us up. And it's such a relief when you can step out of that, when you can break the stress cycle for sure and step out of that. And yes, it takes some time. I'm a super patient coach, by the way. It's funny because if I look back in my life pre-pressure free, I was not a patient person, not very patient, honestly. And since pressure free, I've gained so much presence and so much patience. I can actually really see you and really hear you, because I'm not all caught up in adrenaline or glucocorticoids. Those side effects they're so numerous, and you probably feel them as very specific things. We're going to get into some of that in the deep dive next week. So I will drop a couple of links here in comments for you for would love you to have access to these great speakers. They get paid thousands of dollars to speak on stages, and they're coming, and I get to share this for free with you, which is pretty amazing. And then the deep dives, actually starting on Saturday, we'll dive right into some longer. I'm going to do 30 minutes each morning. And I'd love to have you come in Zoom so that we can interact more. So I'm wishing you a great pressure-free day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.